Hi guys, just a super quick one today in praise of Bondware. Um, you may recall that I was critical in my Poser 12 review of what they called Agile development. Agile development is a system whereby you basically keep on developing and releasing small patches for the program. Rather than trying to create one complete perfect program at launch. And something that really annoyed me is that in their web page, Bondware never took Poser off early access. So right up until Poser 12 was superseded by Poser 13, it was always listed as early access, which is a get out clause for them, where they can say, well, it was early access when you bought it, but 2 years of early access, that's not early access, that's a full program that you're avoiding responsibility for. And I was never really quite sure about the difference between agile and simply releasing patches, and I'm not sure really. I think it's just a technical differentiation in their minds rather than a difference in the way that you receive the product. But I will say that they released an awful lot of patches for the previous version, and at some point they've done a really great patch for Poser 13 and retrospectively Poser 12, which may have gone under the radar. So this figure here is Michael 4 with Jeremy Elite skin texture rendered in Poser 11, and it's Superfly, but you see here that Smith Micro Superfly implementation uh, didn't work with a lot of textures, and this is what you used to get. And now if we go to Poser 12 and Poser 13, yeah, Poser 13, so here's 12, here's 13, both exactly the same texture, which is this Jeremy matte or material with no ambient occlusion. There seems to be no difference now between ambient occlusion and not, probably because Superfly doesn't need tricks to create ambient occlusion. It renders it physically correctly. But the main point I want to make here is that Bondware has continued working on things under the hood, as it were. And I remember when they released 13, their tech department told me that the way that specularity was calculated in earlier versions that they did in version 12 basically was not correct, and that they continue to work on it. I still think that it's a bit too specular, but if you compare that, obviously that's not specular, that's just a poor Superfly render. But then you've got here, which is a little bit matte. There's not really any life to the skin. And then there's this, which has got a little bit of sheen to it. And I think probably somewhere between the two is good. But the really good thing is that now Superfly engine adapts properly, or at least it adapts better to older textures. So as I say, this is Michael 4, so this is what, 10 years ago, more than that probably. And the texture was quite complicated. If I show you the material room here for his face, you can see this is a really complicated texture. It would be nice, by the way, if there was an auto distribute option here for these, but you can see all of these nodes plugged in. It's a complicated texture, and Poser now, if not 100% accurately, certainly a lot more accurately, creates a render of your old textures. So really massive thanks to Bondware. That's a big step forwards to me. And let me show you what they've done. In fact, they've tried to cut somebody out of the equation. So what you used to do was you'd go into this and then you'd get a script from a brilliant Python scripter called Snarly Gribbly, called Easy Skin. And then you take this Easy Skin and you choose a preset. Okay, I've got none here, and you'd apply a preset which would automatically convert this into Superfly compliant. And while I'm talking about Snarly Gribbly, he also did another one called Skydome, which is here, Easy Dome. I don't know if it loads anymore. Oh yeah, it does. And what this does is gives you a sky dome that basically uses an image-based lighting as a texture. And what Bondware has done is tried to make this obsolete now by the inclusion of an image dome. Now, to be honest, their image dome really sucks. It's bad for a whole bunch of reasons, but it seems to me Snarly Gribbly was always a programmer who just worked out of kindness to the poser community, but he always made it very clear that he wasn't going to keep on programming for a community that he really didn't have any interest in anymore. So it seemed to me to be common sense that Bondware would have to find a way to do what his scripts did for free, because if he just disappeared off the scene, then a lot of older stuff would be unusable. So it's good to see that they have continued working beneath the hood on things. I mean, this is an obvious visible one that you can now just plug in your old skin textures or materials, not just for characters, but all sorts of materials for objects and sets and things like this. But there are other things, for example, how it handles errors. For example, if I go to here, this is my poser 11, I believe. If I set this up to render using GeForce, watch what happens. Just crashes straight away, and then you get some kind of error message, I dare say. Let's have a look. Window log file. This is a good way just to debug if you get an error, to make sure that there is an error and not just something you've done wrong. Here you go, errors occurred. So every single one of these, it can't interpret it as Superfly. And now if you do the same thing in Poser 13, it doesn't even generate errors, and it does this. And there are other small things going on behind the hood as well. For example, the thing that I mentioned the other day about being able to turn thumbnails on and off. The thing up here in preferences. I can't remember what it was now actually, but there was something up there that I saw that I really liked. Scene thumbnails as well. So it now generates thumbnails. So when you render, you can tell by the look of the thumbnail what the scene is. I'd like them to offer the option to make that larger. So I could make my scene thumbnail say 256, so it's just easier to look at when I'm browsing. But I have to say I was very, very concerned that Bondware was not going to be committed to Poser, but it certainly seems to me that they have, if not a full fat commitment, they certainly have not abandoned the program. They're continuing to work behind the scenes. I guess they've got that equation between how much it's worth investing and how much the possible return is. Another thing they've just done, which I don't think I've got to show you right now, but they've opened a dedicated Poser format website. So it's a bit like Renderosity, but it doesn't sell DAZ content, DAZ Studio compatible content. So they're really trying to differentiate. The store looks crappy at the moment, but I'll talk more about that in another video. But well done, Bondware. You're showing that you are committed to this program, and I'm 100% behind you on that. So thanks, guys, and everybody else. You have a great day.